Guys, it's Tim from CoinFi.com. So in this video, what I'm going to show you is CoinFi's portfolio management system. I'm actually going to walk you through my own portfolio and then how I look at risk in my own portfolio. So why is this important? Why is it important to use a portfolio management system? Well, it's a similar system to what professional financial traders will use in hedge funds and in the equity world. And the reason is you want to quickly see what your investments are worth in real time. You would also want to see what the daily changes are, where you are making or losing money very quickly, and you also want to understand your risk. So you want to understand where are the potential areas that I can potentially make or lose a lot of money. And these principles obviously do apply also to coins when you're investing in coins. And on top of that, one additional point that we do want to monitor is where are our coins actually located, how are they secured, because obviously some exchanges can go down, you want to secure some things in cold storage, etc. So that's why we think it's important, and using our system you'll also be able to very quickly calculate from the day you invested how much money you've actually made or lost. So if you go into the deposits tab first, what you want to do is actually log in US dollar amounts, all the different deposits you've done, and this will calculate your total invested capital in US dollars. And then now here, if you go into the trading book tab, now this can be a little bit complicated, so what I'll do is I'll walk you through each individually one by one. So the blue numbers are the inputs that we monitor, that you can modify and that I modify. So let's go through very quickly. So these are different tickers. So if you actually had owned say something like made instead of neo, you change that, or automatically calculate the price and then also calculate the change on day as well. So over here, what you want is, this is the US dollar price of say Bitcoin, this is the Bitcoin price, this is how much it's up or down a day. So even glancing at this row, you can quickly see which of your coins are making or losing money. Now the most important thing that I look at is this fund NAV and profit area. So this is actually how much, if I liquidate everything, how much it'll be worth immediately now. Profit and loss is since the day I invested, how much money I've actually made or lost. And then these are just ROI numbers, so your percentage ROI. So I've made 275%, and the multiple is just your fund size divided by your total amount invested. So how many times are you up? So if you made 100%, you're up 2x. So that's really what it is. Now, what you need to do is you need to, when you're using this yourself, you need to enter all your positions up here. And then what you also need to do is you need to go to each one of your exchanges / wallets, and then depending on what you have on each particular exchange, you need to enter these numbers in. So for instance, in Bittrex, I've got 252 Litecoin, I've got 8 Bitcoin Cash, I've got 521 Neo, etc, etc, etc. So what you want to do is go in and enter all that, and then it'll calculate everything for you automatically. And what is also useful to note from a risk perspective is you want to see on this row 28, what position size as a percentage of your entire portfolio each one of these positions are. So for instance, you can see Bitcoin is about 43% of my entire portfolio, and I'll explain shortly why this is important. What's also interesting to note is you want to monitor this. You want to see an overall exposure risk. So you want to see what I would call core exposure and alt exposure. So how much of my portfolio is actually in core coins, and I personally define core coins as Bitcoin and Ether. And the reason this is important, these traditionally are less volatile, so they move less up and down on a daily basis than the altcoin space, and as a result I'm willing to bet bigger size in these names just because they, for my risk tolerance level, they're a safer bet. So I always have a portion of my portfolio in these two core names. And then the alt exposure is basically what percentage of my exposure is actually in the altcoin space. Now, what's also very important is if we look firstly on the right-hand side, over here, this will actually calculate your what we call wallet notional. So we'll work out exactly what percentage of your funds, so in this case 375,000, where are they split? So you can see 1/3, I've secured in Trezor, 34%. 23% I've got in my Ether wallet, and then I've actually got quite a lot on Bittrex that I actually need to move off a little bit. So this is quite important to monitor, because if you have everything, say, in Bittrex, 100% in Bittrex, or even 80% in Bittrex, that's quite risky, obviously, because if Bittrex goes down or you don't have two-factor authentication, lots of things can go wrong. So this is an overall risk measure that you want to monitor as well, because the worst thing you want to happen is you've made a lot of money trading, and then because an exchange gets hacked or you forgot to put two-factor authentication on, then you're kind of screwed. So as a general principle, you typically don't want more than a third of your exposure in any kind of wallet, just to diversify around. Okay, so going back to the interesting stuff, which is when you have this portfolio set up, when you refresh the prices, and to refresh, you just do this, you put a 0 in here, and then it actually goes and pulls all the prices and will give you a live P&L, what your profit will be right now if you dumped everything and sold out, and it will automatically calculate the exposures as well. Now, the interesting thing that I would encourage everyone to look at is what's called scenario analysis. So a lot of the time is, okay, this is well and good, this is how much I've made, but obviously the coins can move quite a lot. So what you want to do is you want to model out certain scenarios. For instance, if NEO went down 30%, which is a very common move for NEO, it can be up and down, even upwards of 50%. What impact does that have on my profit and loss? Am I comfortable with that? So using our scenario analysis, and I do this quite a lot, you can put in different variables on what you think coins would move at. So let's say on a very bad day, NEO might be down 50%, okay? So NEO down 50%, okay, I'm only going to lose 10,000 on that day. My portfolio is going to be down 2.8%. So for my risk tolerance, that's something I'm quite comfortable with. Whereas, with something like Bitcoin, a very, very bad move in one day would be down 10%. So, even then my portfolio is only moving 4%. So, you can play with these different kinds of numbers, and then I would even encourage you to model very bullish scenarios and very bearish scenarios. So let's say, suddenly the altcoin space goes up, and we're predicting that the altcoin space, is going to outperform Bitcoin and Ether, say we think the alts as a sector in general are going to go up 30% the next week. I actually think the alts are going to bounce. So my weighting's more towards alts than it normally is. I'm normally about 60-70% in Bitcoin and Ether. So I think the alts are going to bounce 30% in the next week or so. So if we just model that in here, 30%, then I can very quickly see what my predicted ROI is going to be. So if I am correct, and alts are going to be up 30%, I'm going to make about 48,000. Portfolio is going to be up 12.9%. And if I'm wrong, and they go down, say 20%, you can quickly put those scenarios in and see what actually happens. And this is a very good exercise to actually give you some quantitative comfort on what if my predictions happen, what will that actually do to the profit and loss of my portfolio? So in this case, if the alts are down 20, then I'm going to be down 8.6%, 32,000. So that's something to look at. Now, this is actually my friend's portfolio. So I'm going to go into here. I've remodeled it out, friend's portfolio. So he holds actually quite a lot more alts. So his core exposure is only 18%. He's holding 81% in altcoin exposure. His biggest positions in this case are NEO and gas. He's super bullish on them, so he's like 20% almost in each of them. So 40% pretty much combined for NEO and gas. Now he's very, very bullish NEO, and that's awesome. He thinks NEO is going to go to the moon. But what is very, very useful when I showed him this is if you actually model it out, and let's say NEO does go up 50%. In a day, and gas also goes up 50%. He can see immediately his portfolio return is going to be quite good. He's going to be up 16,000, and up 18%. And if he thinks NEO is going to double, say over or triple, say over 6 months or something like that, then it's going to be up 300%. You can model that in. You can see what your predicted return is. So he's pretty much going to double his money if his prediction is correct. That's why he's bet very heavily into NEO. So that's something interesting to look at. Let me change this around one second. Yep, so this is the portfolio. So to summarize, what the portfolio tool is for is for you to monitor your risk and profit and loss. Why is it important? You want to know where your funds are concentrated just in case there's hacking and security problems, so it can help you understand where your risk is. It also helps you understand where you're going to be making and losing money each day, and where in particular, if a certain coin moves in a way, you can very quickly predict what actual impact that has on your profit and loss. So if you want access to this sheet or you want to know more, I encourage you guys to sign up to our Telegram, and you can ask questions to me directly there. Just tag me and I'll respond. If you want access to the sheet, just click the link below and you'll be able to get access to it. Thanks again.